This is Past the Rock.
Welcome back to the second quarter. We're here to talk hoops, basketball, Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals, people getting stabbed, the Garden, all that stuff. And for that, we're gonna hand it off to the one, the only
Riff Raff.
The Aquaberry king himself.
Huckleberry Dolphin.
No, yeah, I was hoping that I'd have more time to work on my draft book, but if these fucking series keep going the way they're going, it might be off season quickly, boys.
Oh yeah.
I was trying to enjoy some
It
basketball.
was an okay album. I gave it like a 7 out of 10, maybe.
What did I write? What?
The off season.
Oh,
J. Cole.
okay.
It's a dumb joke.
J. Cole bits.
He's no Riff Raff, I'll tell you that.
Let me guess, it didn't work out for you. So
There he goes.
the Western Conference Finals tonight. Actually, I should look at that. I should pay attention to that to some extent.
No, you got to keep your eyes on game 57 of the Texas Rangers season.
Well, I mean, the Rangers are captivating for many reasons, but I don't know if good is a part of that lexicon. That game just started. It's 13-7 Thunder as we speak. So we can hash. We can go back to the beginning of this. I guess, honestly, let's just kind of go back in the way things went. When we last spoke about basketball, I was telling people on this program that the Knicks were about to clean this up. It was in the fourth quarter. We're talking football, but I mentioned, I was like, all right, Knicks about to be done here. We finished this thing up. I walk into the living room. Things had not been settled. It was now in double overtime, and the Knicks were fighting for their lives, and they lost. 138-135. No bueno. No bueno at all. Now, maybe that's recoverable. Maybe it's all just we let it slip. We were the better team. We let it slip. And then Friday came, and Pascal Siakam was like, okay, well, now you're going to have to deal with me just going fucking nuclear. And that's not great. Knicks are obviously still working out a lot with their lineups. Jalen Brunson sort of matched it. Ultimately, they still lose. We get into, what was it? That would have been the Sunday game. Pacers are absolutely fucking drilling the Knicks. We're looking at a sweep potentially. And all of a sudden, Thibodeau starts goofing around. Puts DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet on the...
Tibbs just goofing.
I mean, he kind of was. He put Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright out there, and holy shit, it actually worked. Karl Anthony Towns went crazy as well. I would say the best game Karl Anthony Towns has probably ever played in his basketball career. The Knicks were able to seize the moment in the late stages of the third quarter, really took control midway through the fourth quarter, and were able to hold on after. I think the only part about it that I selfishly want to say is if you go back in the archives here, if you're a real fucking sicko and you're just listening to everything, you'll remember at the trade deadline, I commented on the Knicks getting DeLon Wright. Or maybe he was a buyout candidate. I thought he got there in a trade, but it's been I've slept in many, many days. And I was like, funny enough, DeLon Wright might end up being one of the most important parts of all of these players moving, just because Thibodeau is going to need bodies, and he's a veteran, and Thibodeau will trust him. Lo and behold, he actually comes through and helps them win a game. Unfortunately, that did not help them last night as the Pacers continued to blow their doors off. Tyrese Halliburton went for 32 points, 15 assists. And boys, are you ready for this? Are you ready?
I watched the game, yeah.
0 turnovers.
You forgot one last thing? Oh, maybe you didn't. I just
There was 12 rebounds. There was 12.
I was going to say it was a triple-double, no turnovers.
It was triple-double, no turnover. I mean, yes, but I guess to me, contextually, the rebounds have nothing to do with the other two.
No, but it's a great effort to put in.
No, it was a great effort. I had 32 points, 15 assists, 0 turnovers. That's all offensive output. I think the rebounds are fine. I think for Tyrese Halliburton, it's going to be the same way I feel about Rudy Gobert to some extent. to Karl Anthony Towns to some extent. I think they're incredibly impactful on one side of the court, and I'm still highly suspicious of the top end impact on the other side. Obviously, Tyrese Halliburton has a great group around him. He doesn't have to be some sort of superstar defender. Steph Curry didn't have to either. So I don't know that that's going to be a problem in his career. Karl Anthony Towns, as we're seeing, because the Knicks can't get a stop, is going to need to probably attack some things differently in the offseason. Probably try his best to become more nimble and light of foot, because it's going to be important that he can do more things defensively to help this roster. Obviously, Mikal Bridges is going to have to be the best player he can be next year, and that's probably going to take some time. They traded 5 first-round picks, and they've mortgaged a lot of salary room to have him. So understandably, Knicks fans are very frustrated at him. The Knicks need to just, in general, get more players that are useful. That was obviously the issue. So, yeah, I mean, as far as what the Knicks have done bad, it's not necessarily anything more than they're shorthanded, and 2 of their best players are not ideal defensively. Therefore, it maximizes the shorthandedness. Every one of these games, I mean, this isn't to take away from the Pacers. We'll get to the Pacers. We're going to do plenty Pacers. But to finish on really where the Knicks are, they're short of man. They have no way to get consistent stops at all. Even in the game they won, it felt more like the Pacers got out of the rhythm and could never get back in it. So it's not a good sign, at least not for the 3-1 comeback. We talked about it with the Stars in the first quarter. It's tough to do. I guess we've seen it done in basketball with specific formulas before. I still think the top-end talent on the Knicks is better than the top-end talent on the Pacers, but there's not as many of them. And it magnifies their roles, and it magnifies what they could do. And unfortunately, they don't have enough to cover for Karl and for Jalen Brunson being such huge offensive output machines while still being sort of not necessarily, you don't have to call them like shit defenders, but they're obviously not guys that are out there getting consistent stops. They're helping the defense. They're playing their roles. And for Towns, maybe that's worse than it is for Brunson when we don't expect that much from Brunson there. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of path forward other than them playing the best ball of their lives and figuring out ways to get stops. You know, I think it's a similar situation to the Stars where you got to go back to New York, get one last game just as a respect to those fans that have been so invested. It's a big deal for this fan base. I mean, the Stars, I think, do have a great fan base here. It's obviously not as legendary historically as the Knicks. The Knicks mean a lot to those people. So just give them one last thing to go with. Ultimately, I don't think they beat the Pacers.
Yeah, I think especially for the Knicks, it means more to the city, whereas what the Stars means to the Stars fans.
Yes, definitely. And I would say, honestly, the Knicks winning a championship or competing for one means a lot to the overall basketball community in a different way, because they're sort of the outlier team that should be they should be the Lakers, they should be the Celtics, and they're not for just, a lot of
the Spurs took all
the
juice.
I mean, ultimately, do you build a team St. Louis Cardinals are historic, but they're not sexy, but they're usually in positions to win more often than not historically, right?
They are one of those, because they were one of the first West and South teams. They have such a big fan base everywhere.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. It's a little sneaky help.
Before, the Cubs and the Braves were on cable all the time. The Cardinals and Royals were probably pretty much everyone's team in the South.
Yeah, that's fair. Very fair. So Knicks are, I feel, pretty much done. We'll see. I do feel like they have a good chance to extend the series one more game, but I do think once it gets back to Indiana, it's pretty much going to be a rehearsal of all the other games we've seen. So
now with Pop Halliburton.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I was really looking forward, especially after that come from behind win. I thought that might be like a shift in the series potentially. And then watching last night, starting off a little bit as a back and forth, but then you just saw
it. Was like 40-40. It was like 40-40 after the first quarter.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
I like
And
that.
anytime that it looked like Indiana would make a run, was about to make a run, New York would keep pace. No pun intended. But then you just saw that as the game wore on, you're like, man, there's just more bodies, more useful bodies on the other side, and then you see the downside of the Knicks' current roster construction. You're like, man, like no, I really thought the Knicks after that Boston series, they were really gonna go through this, winning 6. Now I'm like, man, your best shot is a game is winning 7, and by the time if you do make the finals, you're gonna be worn the fuck out.
Yeah,
Like,
no, you're definitely going to be.
We'll get the age-old question of, can one team on 2 weeks rest still beat a team that just finished 7 games?
No. Both of these games are going to be done, right?
Well, I'm just saying, if the Knicks come all the way back.
Oh, if the Knicks did, yeah. I mean, yeah. The Knicks, again, like I said about the Stars, this is the hardest possible path forward. So technically, it's not over, but this is basically as hard as it's going to get.
I work with a guy who's a Thunder fan, and he said he said he didn't want to play the Knicks because he wanted a better series. I was like, what?
I mean, I could see that.
Your first title. Don't you just want to go get?
But yeah, I think that's an interesting conversation because we'll get to the Thunder.
It would be more fun to watch the Thunder play the Pacers than it would be to watch the Thunder play the Knicks. Not because
I do think that's true.
Would be the challenge. He just thinks it'd be better to watch.
Objectively, I think even though we're hearing a lot of jokes about the potential ratings for this finals, I do think it would be fun to watch. It'd be quite a track meet. Yeah, I mean, look, the Pacers have done great. Tyrese Halliburton is elevating himself in conversations, which are fair. Pascal Siakam really overall adding a great chapter to his career. I mean, it's pretty cool. Like I'm pretty impressed with what he's been able to do in his career.
Normal through 2 series to have 5 different guys score at least 20 points in one game?
Nah, I don't think so. That's the other thing.
Go back and check, 'cause I heard something like that. And it was
maybe back in the day when teams were hella loaded, that might have been more of a formula. But no, I would say like the thing with the Pacers is I'm still wondering if this is like the super version of the Hawks team, the infamous Hawks team that was so good in the regular season, had all the All-Stars. They were good as a team, but they were super easy to snuff out in the playoffs because none of those individual players were that great. This team is definitely better than that. We know Tyrese Halliburton's better than their best player. It was Al Horford compared to Tyrese Halliburton, not positionally, but basically best player. That's a pretty big leap. I think even from Siakam to who was the second best player on that one was like Jeff Teague, I mean, it was just it's a large gap in talent. But
yeah, just the organizational differences,
coaching differences. But yeah, well, the coaching we'll get to. As far as just the talent on roster, I find it to be sort of this team that is boring, is sort of easy to sleep on, because I think it does feel like a team that shouldn't be a good defensive team because they love to get into track meets, and all season all they did was get into track meets. Even in a lot of these playoff games, track meets. It also is like, well, the Bucks lost fucking Dame and then Giannis. There things happened before that, but they didn't have Giannis. They had Dame issues. That's an issue. Then you get to the next round, and who did they have explode on them last round? Fuck. Why is it blanking on me?
The Cavs?
Cavs. Yeah, the Cavs injuries explosion going on during that series, which was very unfortunate for them, obviously. But they were kind of getting – obviously the Pacers still were beating teams healthy throughout this process. But they always sort of have been getting this advantage in some way or shape or form. This one comes in the shape of them just going and taking it from the Knicks, who fell asleep on the game 1 and now are at just a huge disadvantage, even if I think you could reset the series and it would go the Knicks' way more often – or not more often than not, but it could go the Knicks' ways more often than you might think right now with them down 3-1. Like I said, they have the top-end talent. It's just not – it's not a complete project enough, and especially with the way the Pacers play, to be this shorthanded is just too much, I believe. Aaron Nesmith has to be given a lot of credit. This is a guy who actually was drafted fairly high, but had mostly been sort of a so-so role player throughout his career. He has delivered and then some for the Pacers. I mean, he might be your overall series MVP at this point because of how consistently his threes have been going in. It's allowed them to outrun and outpace this team the way they have. Miles Turner's sort of the biggest variable for this roster. Maybe people would think it was Benedict Mathurin, but I think they have the luxury of getting rid of Mathurin when they don't want him. They need
tell me more
Miles.
about him because his numbers have looked pretty cool in these playoffs, but I don't know anything about that guy.
Miles or Benedict?
Benedict.
Benedict,
Miles.
Benedict Mathurin is 3 years in the league now. Drafted more or less to be their starting three, and it just hasn't really gone the way they want it to. They're starting three because I guess Neesmith is the three. They have a very big advantage too. You think about that. Nembhard, who's a really interesting guy, might even be able to be a lead guard on a team for another roster.
Oh, he's Canadian.
Which one?
Which one?
Oh, Benedict Mathurin. Well, both of them are. Benedict Mathurin and Andrew Nembhard.
Oh, I was thinking Miles. Sorry.
And then Miles from DFW.
Yeah.
And so
I thought you were deciding between Benedict Mathurin and Miles Turner. Which one I was saying was from Canada?
Oh no. Because I just said Nembhard. Yeah, Nembhard and Neesmith are just really good role players and glue guys. You have a combo guard with Nembhard who can handle defense. You gotta love that. So that's sort of where Benedict Mathurin has been the bench role. He's also young. He also plays with a lot of energy. So I think for Rick Carlisle, there's a trust issue with him. And I think Rick is basically just going to throw him out there, and he's going to see if it's good Benedict Mathurin or if it's bad Benedict Mathurin. If it's bad Benedict Mathurin, come on back. They also have Jarris Walker on the roster, who I don't know if did he get minutes last game or if they phased him out in this round. Yeah, they ended up I think they've phased him out now. Tony Bradley has been the fun one to talk about because Rick Carlisle, I guess we can get into his shenanigans. Rick Carlisle, I guess some people considered that he cost them the game by playing Tony Bradley too much. I would argue that that's not true because he's continued to play Tony Bradley this whole time. I think Rick just likes it because the Knicks are at a disadvantage. Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns can only do so much. And I think that's ultimately just what it is. He likes having that extra big man. I don't expect Bradley to necessarily play next series.
He did basically double his minutes from game 2 to 3.
2 to 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had just
in the loss.
Yeah, I mean, but again, this is just
he played 12. Oh no, he didn't even play game 1.
Yeah, he didn't play game 1, so he threw him in there as a shakeup. But that's what Rick is a funny guy. Like Rick loves to do it. In fact, Rick even was begging to have Campaign get back on the court in a little sly way in one of the press conferences. So I think Rick definitely understands.
Campaign could drop the sickest rap album just with that name. Campaign. Oh my god, he could have. Oh my god, a whole thing going.
Well, he's gonna have to figure out a decision after this year because it might be the last in the NBA for him. Yeah, I mean, look, they're gonna need more production from the 5 because they are the 6, I guess, because that's how much money they've invested in those guys. Miles McBride has looked good. That's a 7th guy, but you can't trust Precious Achiuwa at all. So now your backup big is useless. So you really only have 2 bigs, and one of them can't play defense. So yeah, just not great there. But off-season moves for the Knicks to get into the shit, get a little bit better. Ben Shepherd played a little bit the other night, which I don't know how consistent that'll be. TJ McConnell's going to continue to play. Obi Toppin's going to continue to play. Those are probably the only 2 locks coming off the bench forever and ever. Like I said, Mathurin will get the roll of the dice. But in the next series, I wouldn't be surprised if they do dust off somebody else. I think Isaiah Jackson's only 1 loss to the season for injury. So, and that's the funny part is they still have another big on this roster that would have been useful and playable. So Pacers are great. I'm excited to see the Pacers playing well. I'm excited that they have Jermaine O'Neal in the building. I'm excited for Rick Carlisle to be coaching this team. What a funny world it is. Just a few years ago, they had the worst one-and-done coach possibly of all time with Nate Bjorken.
Was the choke game during the last week?
Yes, that would have been game 1. That would have been as we were finishing up
I think
recording.
that's probably one of the coolest. I mean, obviously he thought they had won the game and all that, but it was still really cool.
The foot on the line obviously was a part of that too. So the only other part of it I think is interesting.
Reggie was there.
Reggie was there, but it was also that Halliburton, even after the game, acknowledged that Reggie lost that series, that he did the choke some balloon. So I thought that was kind of the first tell that they were dead serious about trying to win, that they were the best team in the series, and that they weren't just getting lucky in game one, more or less, which was kind of what it felt like after game one. So, I mean, the Pacers have done amazing.
Rick Carlisle knocked the Spurs out enough for the playoffs that I was like, that man can beat anybody at any time.
Yeah, and so getting back to what I teased in the first quarter, if Rick Carlisle doesn't have the malice at the palace happen, there's certainly, in my opinion, and this is someone I was the young kid obsessed with the NBA every Saturday, Sunday, if it was on both days, it depended on the time of the year, because we were poor people, we only had 4 channels. If you got an NBA game, the storylines you were trying to watch, you were trying to figure out, were the Pacers the best team that year? In 2005, the Pacers had built, in my opinion, a team that was so much better than the rest of the NBA that they were going to win the championship. Detroit had just won it the year before over the Lakers. The Lakers Kobe Shaq are finally blowing up. Of course,
I don't know if I'd call it an experiment.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say experiment, but they blew that up, obviously.
8 years later, they ended that experiment.
and then of course the Spurs were always good at this point. I think if I remember 05, the doubt with the Spurs was that they had already hit that start to decline, and then I think this was the Robert Horry, or was it Michael Finley, or was it both? No, I think it was Horry, because Finley's for 07.
Finley would be 07, and this would be
This is Horry
first, right?
I think this is when you guys get Horry, and Horry really helps put the Spurs back in that upper echelon, where they already were upper echelon, but it gave them that juice to be the title contender again. And obviously they didn't end up winning. They ended up beating the Pistons this year, of course, who were the other team in the malice. But of course, the Pistons did not face nearly the same repercussions as Ron Artest, who would be lost the entire season, Jermaine O'Neal, who would be lost the majority of the season, Steven Jackson, who would be lost the majority of the season. So one of my boyhood favorite teams was that Indiana Pacers team. I was just obsessed with them. I was like, this is a team I would put together in the video game. I'm so excited. I want this team to win. And then the malice happens. And I think that's a pretty funny story, just because obviously I don't have anything to do with Indiana. I just literally, they put together most of my favorite players on one roster somehow. And I was obsessed with it. And then, yeah, I remember it. I still remember the malice very well because it was over. It was just it was done. That dream was gone.
Events at a game,
because you knew it was over.
I mean, even without all the context, one of the craziest things we've ever seen.
Yeah, and so
obviously all the fallout from that.
And this is why I do blame Fox News, is because it got taken to a very racist place quickly. It was also incredibly unfair because the NHL had fights all the time. In fact, that's all anyone ever knew of mainstream audiences. NASCAR was basically always on top 10 for crashes at the time. Like, the fact that we were like, and it wasn't started by the players. Like, we watched people throw trash at a player.
Hockey fights, but hockey isn't.
Right. I understand it was wrong, but to take it to the extent where we like talked about how the NBA was this corrupt thug, it was crazy.
You punish them, but you don't have to act like it's holier than thou weird.
Yeah, it became a complete racist through line, and instead of the NBA having backbone.
At the time, I was just watching ESPN.
Oh, it was bad, dude. It was all over the place because you couldn't
I feel like ESPN presented it that way, but maybe I just don't remember. I was young, so
they had to deal with. I mean, if you were watching like PTI and stuff, they would have been talking about this, because this was a big. I
mean them addressing it, like presenting it to me, like,
because basically Fox News was doing what we now know Fox News to do with basically every story.
Yeah.
Is if they know something's going to win with their base, they beat it like a drum. And basically for that entire season, Sean Hannity and all those sickos just beat that like a drum. And was that before or after they had to start wearing suits? I don't even.
Before.
I don't know the lore. Oh no! Oh, you're talking about the players. Yes,
Yeah.
this is how this is
the
part
Super
of it.
Bowl.
This
Yeah.
is part of it, but no, Allen Iverson is mostly inspiration for that. But yes, ultimately, David Stern cracked down way too hard, and then in investigations as this proceeding actually went through, Jermaine O'Neal and Steven Jackson were found to have been far less, and Ron Artest had been far less inappropriate than it had been really talked about for a decade up until the point they were finally cleared. Like, especially Jermaine O'Neal. I think Steven Jackson was the only person who actually really, from a legal standpoint, went too far in their actions for the most. I mean, Ron Artest shouldn't have done what he did, but ultimately he was defending himself. He was angry at the moment. Like, you understand that reaction, right? It's not appropriate, but you understand where it comes from. Steven Jackson went into the stadium and just started punching people randomly.
Defending yourself by running up 20 rows to get to somebody is a weird argument.
And then we found out that Detroit never handled this guy. This was a regular problem guy who'd finally gone too far.
Yeah, obviously that guy should definitely have gotten in trouble too. I don't want to say he shouldn't have.
But that was the point, is we focused this all on the players, and it just by the wayside, all these other parts of this went to the nuance of the story died. And as a result, I think 3 NBA players' careers were drastically changed forever. Huh? That franchise never got a chance to win again. And Rick Carlisle could have easily, and that ties this all together, Rick Carlisle's career could have easily, as a head coach, been killed in that moment. And ultimately it ends up leading him to Dallas, which then ends up leading him to Indiana, back home. And of course he got this job because he was Larry Bird's lead assistant for when he was the part of the Pacers in the 90s. So we've did most of this on the Pacers. So
sorry about that.
That's okay, because I think they're the more interesting team.
Me too.
On the other thing that we can do quickly, I promise. The Thunder are really good. Are they so good that they might be doing what I think I've called 15 Warriors-ing us? I think it's possible. They're pretty fucking good. And SGA just won the MVP, which puts that bow on it.
How do you stop him? I don't know.
I guess it's still – the youth still worries me. But ultimately, not to discredit the 2015 Warriors title, because we'll never know. But they did a hell of a job getting through the West. The West was mostly up in arms. This is where we think San Antonio is still the best team, but ultimately San Antonio has finally taken a step back. The 14 title has taken quite a bit of toll on them, justifiably so. This is incredibly earned title. So then in 15,
2 straight years of going all the way through to Game 6 or 7,
in 14 being such an emotional ending, right? Yeah. Like, I think that was tough to rebound from, even though they were there. I mean, I think that's who they beat, right? Or did they beat the Thunder in 15 as well to get to the Cavs in the finals, the first Warriors year? And so I guess I don't remember that, but it doesn't matter. Ultimately, the Warriors kind of went from this really young, interesting team with a bright future and maybe one of the league's best young players to having the league's best player, arguably, and having this incredible team full of guys and an incredible scheme that's going to revolutionize basketball. Now, I don't know that the Thunder are that far, but this is a great group. It's incredibly young, which is impressive. And it also leads me to maybe wonder if Indiana's, not going to do it. Sorry, Timberwolves fans, we've run out of time. Anthony Edwards had not. I'm not blaming Anthony Edwards. Is my long story short.
As a Vikings fan, I can speak to what Minnesota sports fandom is about a little bit, and this is exactly what Minnesota sports fandom is about.
Yeah, I mean, look, Rudy Gobert's contract is unfortunate. He's supposed to be your second best player allegedly, but he's not. Julius Randle's too high variance, and Anthony Edwards still got some maturing to do, even if I don't think this whole series is his fault.
2015 Warriors ran through New Orleans, Memphis, Houston to get to Cleveland.
Houston. Oh, okay, so early Harden and that. Yeah, so who dropped San Antonio, I wonder. Anyway. The Clippers. Oh, that was the Chris. Oh, my God. That's right. The Clippers were supposed to win the title that year, and they were the ones who choked their asses off. And then, and then the Warriors carpe the diem, and
that's how
the rest is history.
You got to get the breaks and take advantage.
Boom.
Basketball. I wish I had my finger on the button when you started doing that.